So why should we be talking about dementia? It's really increasing in prevalence in our society. We are living longer, despite some of the challenges we have in 2020 with coronavirus. We've done a really good job with other immunizations. We've done a good job with cancer. We've certainly done a really good job with heart disease, and we're living a lot of into our 80s. It's kind of a chance to live long enough to have dementia. I have searched long and hard. I've been doing house calls for about 20 years, and 60% of the patients that we care for have a memory impairment. 50% of the time I was inside of a memory care unit during my clinical hours. During those early years, I looked everywhere, neurology books, anywhere I could to try to find practical solutions to improve the kind of care I was delivering. I could find a lot of literature on what medications to use or avoid, but not how to really interact with people, how to make it better. And so I spent a lot of time just kind of observing, trying to figure out what I was seeing with the disease. And I just like to pass some of those things along.
Dementia is sort of, to many at least, it's an amorphous concept that often is confusing, or people get confused about it. So what is it? What is dementia?
It's a symptom of a disease, not the disease itself. That's one of the most important things to think about. It's this umbrella description of memory loss. But really, it's much more important. You have to understand what the normal aging process looks like before you start going into what is dementia. And I always describe our brain in kind of a couple of different ways, but I like analogies, and we'll use a couple of them tonight. One of them is a hard drive. And the hard drive is how fast you can record information and then receive information. It's not anything to do with the processor. The peak speed for that in the human brain is about 18, 19 years old. It's really why we end up going to college and are able to absorb massive amounts of information in a small amount of time. But every day after the age 18, actually our hard drive slows down a little bit. It gets harder to actually record or even receive information. And it's certainly not the peak of wisdom, because there's not that much in our hard drive at 18, but it's actually the peak of speed. And I think that's important to understand, because our performance goes down in a natural way. It's a very gradual, but everybody's got a little bit different slope. But it's a perpetual thing, and that's the normal aging process. And so if you live long enough, you're eventually going to cross this imaginary line out there that says you're below the mild cognitive impairment. And that's really an arbitrary line. When we talk about dementia, dementia is clearly no longer this soft slope we're talking about. It's this hard departure where you drop off. And that departure can have, like, if it's a stroke, it can be really quick. If it's an Alzheimer's, it might be just a steeper slope. But there's a different pattern, and you start progressing no longer at that kind of slow rate from 18, but at a much faster new rate. That's really what dementia is to me. And it's really important for people to understand that. So it's unfortunate that the description in Webster's dictionary doesn't really give us any practical understanding.